Hey everybody, it's Joe the Butcher Nicolo. Didn't scare me this time, I saw you there. Today I'm going to show you what I do when I get a session, and I always start with drums. So I'm going to show you what I do when I get a set of drums from a studio, and how I go about mixing those drums. This session is from the Sunset Marquee out in Hollywood. It's probably going to be a track for Corey Feldman, believe it or not. And a couple of things in just globally in terms of when you go to mix anything. I learned this from Tony Bon Jovi, who owned the power station. He's John Bon Jovi's uncle. And he was to me, the Jedi master of how to mix and how to EQ instruments. And what he told me, which was one of probably the most important things in mixing and tracking, is you have to roll out the mush. And what he meant by mush was that muddy, lower mid-range, upper bass sound, which comes in at about anywhere from 220, 270, 300, maybe all the way up to 450. That's what he called mush. And that, when you have all different instruments playing at that frequency, that is what causes what I call wax buildup, and your mix gets real muddy. And as soon as you start doing that, people will be like, oh my gosh, your mixes have so much detail. I can hear inside everything. And it's because you've eliminated the mush. So that's the first thing. All right, so I'm going to show you how I go about mixing drums today. This, like I said, this came from the Sunset Marquee. The first thing, if I'm just getting stems, now if I work on Pro Tools, hey man, again, this is how I do things, if you would just kind of put it into your own thought process. But I use Pro Tools. I've been using it since they invented it. I started with the Diaxis, which was a Studer product. So I'm just an old school Pro Tools guy. But you can use any of these tips. Even if you get one or two tips from this, I'm glad you learned something from Joe the Butcher. So the first thing I do, of course, is I make sure I have all the drums in order. And what I do is, it's basically kick, snare, toms, just kind of like the set. Kick, snare, toms, hi-hat, over, and then room. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to mute everything else here. So the first thing I want to listen to is going to be, obviously, the kick drum. So what I have here is, this is how the kick drum sounds. Okay. It's not bad. Not a bad sounding kick drum. It's kind of dud. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, like I said before, is this is my cue for rolling out the mush, which I've already put on here. And there it is. There's rolling out the mush. Now with this mush, it's much closer to 500. That is where you have to use your ears. So, and again, for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, dude, I know this, but for this is kind of a global thing, and maybe not a lot of people realize that you have to roll this out. Now with this one, you can see it's much higher than, this is more like 416, okay? And then so when I kick that out, and I'm adding a little top end, wouldn't have to add this much top end, but I'll show you why I'm doing that, is because the next thing I am adding to this is my own set of triggers. Now for me, the trigger aspect is what changes everything when it comes to kick and snare. Just about everything else you can deal with how the recording was, except for maybe the room sound. But the kick and the snare determines the sound of the record. Now, this sounds like more of a heavier rock sound. So what I've done in my browser here is down here, and I hope you can get it on that one. This is my favorite kick. This is the John Lennon kick, or at least it sounds like the John Lennon kick from Imagine. And this is the Power Station kick from Some Like It Hot. And I can show you when we go to triggering. Okay, this is the kick. Come on. Okay. Now this is the kick with my shit on it. A little too much, a little less detail. Okay, we've got that kick. That's the kick from, that's a Power Station kick. That's the Lennon kick. And there's my kick. And then together we get that. Okay. So that's what I'm doing to give myself a good kick drum sound. Now let's check out the old snare here. This is it's got a ring to it. Okay. Not EQing it. The EQ is good, and I'm going to get a lot of that high sizzle fill stuff from the snare bottom. This was recorded snare top and bottom, which is how normal people do it. And so I haven't changed any top end or anything, because I'm gonna let you hear that for a second. But that's what I'm going to get from the bottom. Now here is the. Okay, let's go to our browser. This is what I call the good snare. Where that came from is 30 years ago, I got Bob Clearmountain kicks and snares. Now, if anybody wants any of these sounds, I will have them available to you sometime in the near future. If you just hit me up with your email, I'm gonna have a store set up, and a lot of the stuff is just gonna be free downloads, so you can use what I use if you want. Also, you don't have to use this. I use the Slate drum replacer machine. A lot of people that make them now, they're not that expensive. You know, if you can't afford, let's say, $39 to $59, maybe even $89 for an app, you should be doing something else. Okay, or I shouldn't say that. Well, yeah, I should say that, but that's how I feel. So here it is with my snare. There's without. Now again, there's some repeats here and stuff. I don't want to waste a lot of time, and you can tighten this up so that the snare hits at the same time, and then there's your kick and snare sound. Okay. Next, so let's say with a rack tom, what I more than likely will do is see where he's playing this rack here. And again, man, just pull out a little of that mush. I'm not gating. I'm not gating these toms. Some people like to put a tight gate and just have the snare. If it's real intrusive to the track, I might do that. But a lot of times, because I'm splitting the toms left and right, it gives it the whole kit a little more air. And if you look at those early records, Zeppelin, Beatles, Pink Floyd, and the people who recorded those records, Alan Parsons, who was the later Beatle engineer. I'm sure the people who know all these names is great, but if you don't know their names, it doesn't matter. They would put a Neumann 67 right up, like kind of where the toms are, and then put another one like kind of behind the drummer, just to like behind where he's sitting, to the left side and to the right side. And that's basically, when you're getting drum sounds, a lot of the sound of the room is what makes up the sound of the drums. And that's true with like really any instrument. What gives it dimension is not just the instrument, but the sound of the room in the room for the instrument. That's what gives you depth. So that's another important thing that we can get into when we talk about miking other things and recording other things. So that's what I'm doing to this tom. Let's check out this floor tom. It's probably around here somewhere. Again, it sounds basically the same, so I'm just going to actually just do this so that the EQs are basically the same. What I just did is I copied and pasted this EQ down here. And we move on to the hi-hat. What I'm going to do with this is probably, now this one I probably will take out more of this mush. This is bottom end here. I will pull that out and then just give it just a tiny little bit on the top there. And our drum sound is really taking shape. Okay, now overheads. First thing you want to do with overheads is check out the phase relationship, because it's like if one mic is slightly higher or lower than the other, and the engineer didn't hear exactly what they sounded like, they're going to be out of phase. And if you've ever hooked up speakers at your house and all of a sudden you're like, the bottom's funny and it just doesn't sound right, that's out of phase. Again, it's hard to describe, but you'll know it if you hear it. So the first thing I want to do now here is see if these overheads are out of phase. So I have them split hard left and right, and these are the overheads. And upon hearing it, they sound okay. They sound pretty much like whoever recorded this. They did a good job, and it sounds like it's in phase. So I've put an EQ which has a phase inverter on it on one of these tracks. So I'm going to listen, and I'm going to put the left hi-hat out of phase. And again, you should be hearing all this stuff hopefully loud enough. And I'm gonna switch the phase and see if we can hear if it sounds weird in or out of phase. Both ways might be okay if the phase relationship is that perfect. But let's listen and see what happens when I turn it out of phase. Like, I don't know if you can tell on your speakers or if you have headphones on. If you have headphones, I'm putting it out of phase. You can hear how funky all of a sudden it's like it's split hard left and right. It's kind of weird. Now here's back in phase. All of a sudden there's a center image. Okay. Okay. Out. In. Okay. Okay, so that now this this drum performance does not have a room track. If I wanted to add a room track, what I would probably, again, there's a lot of programs that you can use. For adding a drum room sound, I like the Eventide Ultraverb. I also like Capital Chambers, but you've got the EMT plate. You've got the EMT 250. There's all kinds of rooms. You really have to listen to what the artist wants it to sound like. With this one, because I do have a rough mix of the whole track, I know that they weren't looking for a big thunderous drum sound. They wanted the sound of the drums in the room, so that's what I'm giving them. And we could do other drum tracks and performances and stuff too, because let's say if I'm mixing rap or something with drum machine or loops, it's a completely different animal, which we'll get in at a later time. But the last thing I like to do is put the entire drum kit through. I use this is the GLA 2A. This is, who is this? CLA 2A, Chris Lord Algae. Okay, CLA. Whoa, Chris Lord Algae 2A. I actually like his better than the from UA 2A. It just so happens it does it for me. As a matter of fact, I leave the settings where just about where he likes it, and I'll show you the difference. This kit now is running through the whole kit is running through this limiter. And I'll watch what happens when I switch this on. Okay. This is without. All right, this is with. Without. With. It's just big, thick, punchy. Now let me show you also, when I have the whole kit up, what happens when I take off triggers off the kick. And again, I could futz, I should and could, but I'm lazy and I have ADD and I can't spend the time right now because half of the people already left. But I really don't care, because the people who are staying are getting something out of this. And if you want to ask me questions, put it in the comments. JoeTheButcherNiccolo.com. If yeah, that it probably says it across the bottom here or something. JoeTheButcherNiccolo.com, or Joe Niccolo shit. Okay, my email, JoeNiccoloMusic@gmail.com. Or you can put it in the comments for Rough House. Blah, blah, pit. Okay, so let me show you what it sounds like without my samples. Okay, this is the kick with. Without. Without. With. And you can see, it's not like I'm turning the blue kick into like a red kick. It's just, I try to keep the sensibility of the kick, just make it bigger, punchier. You hear a little bit more of the beater hitting the head, stuff like that. And then here's the same thing with the snare. This is with okay, this is without. With. What I can also do, if I want something a little, let's say I want something a little more thunderous with that snare, something that really kind of grabs your attention, that's a little bit different than what's there, I'll go to what I call the power station snare, which is this, and we'll see here, and we'll show you what that does. As you can hear, it does that, but you don't want too much of that. So in context, and that almost even determines the room tone, and it's just on the snare. Same thing, you know, again with the kick, depending on what you want to try to do to it. And again, we have this power station kick on here, but if you really want to make it dramatic, we can go. Or just enough of that. Kick it back. So by having these trigger sounds, these are some of my favorites. You can really mold the sound of the kick drum to the record, which is really impossible to do unless you use samples. Now, if it's just like this is exactly how the drummer wants it to sound, don't fuck with my sound. I can hear these triggers, I don't like it, dude, that's fine. Okay, I'm just showing you if I get a track that they want me or expect me to mix, and I want to make it, you know, sound bigger or better, then these are the things I'm going to do. So that is basically, for starters, what I do when I get to mix something that I have not recorded. All right, man. Thanks for joining me. It's Rough House Joe's Garage. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe. Again, we've got some interviews coming up shortly. I just wanted to get into a little bit of this today. So thanks for watching. All right, man. All right.